Namaste, Namaskaram, Vanakkam, Namo Namaha, Jai Ganesha, Jai Hindu Yoga Dharma. In appreciation for the upcoming Ganesha Chaturthi, where hopefully all of you Hindus will make your clay images of Ganesha, what they mean to you, and then return them back to the river or the sea. So Ganesha is extremely important to all Hindus, should be, for he's a reminder to all of us to stand up for the Hindu Yoga Dharma. Just like the Bhagavad Gita and the great Kurukshetra, and Krishna challenging Arjuna to stand up. Look at the story of the Ramayana, standing up to the evil Ravana. Hindus need to seriously take a lesson here and stop capitulating. It's not for nothing that India, and by extension Hindus, have been invaded, pilfered from for eons of time. Right up to the very present, with the massive, spurious yoga movement actually celebrated by quote-unquote Hindus on International Yoga Day, which was a complete divorcing of yoga from the Hindu Yoga Dharma. So today yoga just means a physical exercise when you know that it has nothing to do per se with the body at all. That's Hatha Yoga, and that was the one that was supposed to be secret, my friends. Hatha Vidya Bhavidiyavate Guya Nivedartu Prakash Avaranam. So today's essay is Ganesha and his pasa and the goad specifically, but we'll get into his other important symbolism also. And this is a civilizational reflection on what Hindus hold on to and what they let go of. Sometimes it's the wrong things. And of course, why Ganesha stands first. All of our devatas, they're civilizational teachers. They preserve a civilizational psychology that, unfortunately, many modern Hindus have forgotten. Ganesha is especially poignant because his imagery does not merely invite devotion, it teaches discernment. His story, his posture, his implements, his bodily proportions, his vahana, and mudras and gestures form a complete visual education. His pasa or rope asks what must be held and drawn near. His ankusa asks what must be corrected and redirected. His gada suggests the strength to protect what is sacred. Yet, before Ganesha held any of these implements, he first embodied the quality that gives the moral force. He stood his ground. Before Ganesha became the elephant-headed deity known throughout the world, he appears as a young guardian created by Ma Parvati and entrusted with a simple command: protect the entrance and allow no one to pass. The gatekeeper, protect the Dharma. Now, he did not yet possess the head by which the world would recognize him. He was a brave, pure child standing before a doorway, faithfully protecting his mother and carrying out the responsibility she had given him. So all Hindus have a responsibility, and especially all of you pundits and pujaris and yogis, especially you swamis. You take vows to uphold the Dharma, not capitulate. Now, interestingly, as this young boy stood there protecting the Dharma, protecting his Mataji, Siva comes home. Now, the boy did not abandon his post merely because the person confronting him was powerful. He didn't calculate whether obedience would bring him popularity, safety, prestige, or approval. He had been entrusted with protecting the Dharma, and he stood for it, even at the cost of his head. Let's think about what he said. I stood when standing was dangerous. I protected what had been entrusted to me. This is something all Hindus should be reading. Very personal. I did not surrender my responsibility merely because the opposition was powerful. I stood even at the cost of losing my head. People run away so easily now. A guru gives a little bit of correction and the chelas just disappear. So sad. Now, for modern Hindus, this is a necessary civilizational teaching. Dharma cannot survive through private affection alone. It requires people willing to stand publicly for its language, practices, symbols, teachers, sacred knowledge, and distinct identity. If it's a lifestyle, is it? Or are those just words you're mouthing? A tradition that no one is willing to defend will eventually be reinterpreted, renamed, commercialized, and inherited by others. Modern yoga. What value do you claim to hold that you would abandon the moment defending it becomes uncomfortable? The head has to be transformed. Now, the story, of course, is undoubtedly violent and seems ridiculous to many when read only at a literal level. Yet, Hindu sacred narratives frequently use dramatic imagery and go over the top. Look at Indra, who studies 101 years before he becomes chief of the Devatas. And even Varochana, who's never heard from again, studied 32 years. Of course, he thought it was all about the body, like today's modern yoga, but at least he studied 32 years. But he was never heard from again. And he went on to teach the Asuras. Think about that. Now, the severing of Ganesha's head may be contemplated not merely as destruction, but as the removal of a limited identity. The original head represents the consciousness with which the child began. Sincere, yes, courageous, loyal, but still incomplete. The elephant head represents an enlarged consciousness, greater memory, first chakra, memory, greater intelligence, greater patience, greater sensitivity, and a greater capacity to perceive. Ganesha does not return from the encounter merely repaired. He returns totally transformed. When correction comes from the guru, the one who removes Ganesha's head was Siva, his father, and symbolically his supreme guru. This introduces a difficult but very important lesson. Spiritual correction does not always arrive in a form that pleases the ego. And hence the ego goes. Ganesha receives what may be called the most serious reprimand imaginable. This is the purpose of the severity of the story. Yet, the story doesn't end with estrangement. It does not permanently free Ganesha from Siva. It does not reject Parvati. He doesn't abandon the divine family or define himself forever through this wound. He's restored, given new life, and honored with a new form, and granted the position of Ganapati, Deva of the Ganas, and the one worshipped before any new undertaking. The gatekeeper, the bell ringer, Vignavinayaka, removing obstacles through humility, which is understanding. Now, the relationship survives the crisis because the purpose of the correction is ultimately transformation and reintegration, not humiliation and not abandonment. Now, of course, this symbolism must never ever be used to excuse any kind of abuse. No human teacher should imitate the violence of a myth or demand unquestioning submission. No. Genuine guru, chela, shishya, disciple, discipline must be governed by dharma, self-restraint, accountability, and concern for the disciple's spiritual welfare. Abuse is not tapas. Exploitation is not initiation, and fear is not devotion. Yet, the opposite error must also be recognized. Modern people sometimes abandon every teacher, discipline, community, or tradition the moment the ego is corrected, even in the slightest manner. Any disagreement becomes toxicity and the teacher's fault. Any boundary becomes control. Any uncomfortable teaching becomes, oh, they're harming me. Of course, do not tolerate abuse, but do not mistake every correction for abuse. Do not surrender discernment, but do not run from every miro put up to you. The Ankusha, after all, is a goad. Its purpose is not cruelty. Its purpose is redirection. After this crisis, Ganesha does not remain outside the doorway as an alienated child. Siva, Parvati, Ganesha, Skanda Muruga becomes one of Hinduism's most beloved divine families. The family is not united because nothing difficult happened. It is united because rupture was followed by recognition, transformation, restoration, and renewed belonging. Hindu family life, ashrama life, and the Guru Parampara cannot be sustained by the expectation that no one will ever disagree. No one will ever get corrected, disappointed, or misunderstood in one way or another. Unity is not the absence of friction. It's the capacity to pass through friction without making permanent fragmentation the first response. Now, in our GEM principle, we're using the dynamics here of physics, gravity, electricity, magnetism. You can apply this to your own physical body, from the belly to the heart to the head, gravity, electricity, magnetism. We can also use this progression to understand the basic three sampradayas of Hinduism. With Ganesha as the foundation, you have the Saima family, Ganapati, the loving, youthful heart deity, Muruga, and then to the magnetic head, Shiva Parvati. Vaishnavism, you have Ganapati, same youthful loving warrior at the heart, Krishna or Hanumanji, and then the magnetic deity head would be Vishnu Lakshmi or Sitaram. Shaktiism, you have Durga as a foundation. Of course, Ganesha is understood. You have Lakshmi at the heart. Notice how she holds the Amritam there, not the money. Don't put things in reverse. And then the deity head is Ma Saraswati. Durga Lakshmi Saraswati. And interestingly, we have a profound understanding of before creation in Shaktiism. Ma Kali, the misunderstood Ma Kali, the no-thingness, the darkness, the absolute before creation. Then Ma Durga with her many colors, many arms, the Big Bang of creation. And then the evolutionary process to the refinement of the beautiful Ma Parvati. So you see the science of the Hindu yoga, religious, spiritual, scientific, philosophical lifestyle. And again, why Hindus worship Ganesha first? And every Hindu should know this. And it's not just because that's what you were told to do. Because he represents the first chakra, the earth element, and gravity, and smell, and memory, and 0 to 7. When the memory is highly activated. And also, obviously, synonymous with the first primal chant. Pranava Om. Ah, and to name it, Turiya. In this beautiful story, Ganesha is fashioned by Parvati Ma. So she's the creator here. Interesting. We give equal credence here in Hinduism. Comes off of her own body. And later we retell this as it's clay or turmeric paste. This is why we make our clay Ganeshas every year, participating in this creation story. And it's amazing when you get your hands into that and do it, what wisdom can come to you. Please, it's not just for children. It's for the child that you need to awaken inside of you, no matter what your physical age. In other words, Ganesha arises from Prakriti, from embodied nature. That's why he's the Devata of the Ganas, Ganapati, the very substance of the earth itself, Bhumi Mata. Vasundaraya Vidmehe Bhuta Datraya Dhimehi Tano Bhumi Prachurayadum. This all helps explain why he stands at the beginning, of course. Before one attempts to transcend, which means to climb, don't confuse that with transvalue, meaning skipping over. In order to transcend, in order to send your rocket into outer space, inner space, it has to have a good foundation. Before one climbs towards the higher chakras, one must establish steadiness at the base. This is why becoming a 200-hour yoga teacher is so absolutely absurd and dangerous, actually. Before one speaks of the formless and the absolute, non-duality, Vedanta, please, my friends, you got to start at the beginning. You have to learn responsibility within name and form and body and family and community and earth and ritual. This Neo-Vedanta people will say, oh, I'm studying Vedanta now. Oh, you're studying the end without understanding the beginning? So too with the Saiva Hindu Guru Patanjali. They jump right to the end of the second pada in yamas, niyamas, and even distort them, forgetting completely about the beginning. Remember, all you Vedantins out there, you want a lesson in non-duality? Want another one? Without stability, so-called spirituality becomes a fantasy. Without memory, smriti, it's talked about so much. Smriti, Shraddhavirya smriti samadhi prajna. Patanjali. Without memory, universality becomes amnesia. Without boundaries, compassion becomes surrender. Without humility is one tusk, ekadantaya. Knowledge becomes vanity. Knowledge without character development, one of the deadly social sins. Without a foundation, elevation becomes imbalance at best. Ganesha gives us the platform from which to rise and to safely come back to. Now, here's a little antidote. When the first Orthodox Hindu temple in America opened in Flushing, and it just, quote-unquote, happened to be a Ganesha temple. Beautiful story there. You can listen to our podcast on that, our video podcast. It was founded in a vision by Ganesha himself. Sitting there, I used to watch around noontime, many of the professionals would come in, some of the doctors, the lawyers, etc., and they just walk around the sanctum sanctorum and then prostrate and go back. And one of them told me one day, well, Ganesha's my psychiatrist. He clears my head. And he is. He's our divine psychiatrist. If we look carefully at him, we encounter an entire psychology without opening a single book. His image teaches us through proportion, posture, implement, animal, gesture, and paradox. His combined human and animal form reminds us that a human being contains many levels of existence. We are biological creatures, animals, with instincts and appetite. Belly down, We are human beings capable of reason, responsibility, moral choice, and love. The heart. It's not for nothing. We make the heart symbol. The Anahata chakra. The no-hit, the pure experience of love. And we are also expressions of a divine consciousness, the head, capable of transcending both animal and human. Remember, the Atmana is not the mind, different than the Western understanding of the soul, my friends. And the teaching that Ganesha is giving us is, don't deny the animal. Educate ourselves. Instinct is important. Humanize our power and make our consciousness divine. Then when we look at Ganesha's Vilambita Sutra, his trunk, prominent feature, his fifth hand, or seventh hand. Now, the elephant's trunk can do what? It can uproot a tree, strong. Yet it can also pick up a flower or a coin, very sensitive. And it's flexible like Nagdevata, like a snake. So Ganesha is teaching us the psychology of being strong, flexible, sensitive. In your body, mind, emotions. Think of the opposite. Weak, inflexible, insensitive. So strength without sensitivity, for example, becomes brutality. Sensitivity without strength becomes helplessness. Flexibility without principles becomes capitulation, licentious behavior. Today's phony yoga, it's all sex-oriented. Strength without flexibility becomes rigidity. Strong, flexible, sensitive in your body, mind, and emotions, and then what happens? Life is sweet, the laddu. Now, as one matures, they know when to stand immovably like the young Ganapati, and when to bend intelligently. Ganesha stood firmly at his Mataji's doorway, but after transformation he did not remain psychologically frozen at the scene of conflict. So the lesson he's giving us is be strong enough to protect, flexible enough to adapt, and sensitive enough to know the difference. When these qualities are integrated in your life, it becomes sweet, the laddu, the modaka. And sweetness here does not mean indulgence. It's the fruit of disciplined integration. Then our great psychologist, with his broken tusk, teaches us the willingness to sacrifice. Sacrifice pride, personal comfort for a greater purpose. According to one celebrated tradition, he broke his own tusk to continue writing the Mahabharata when his pen failed. So think about it, folks. Without Mahaganapati, you would have no Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata. This broken tusk teaches that wisdom may require the surrender of vanity. One does not have to appear flawless in order to serve Dharma. Indeed, what appears outwardly broken may become the very instrument through which sacred knowledge is preserved. His asymmetry here becomes his strength. So, contrary to modern cultures, do not worship the appearance of perfection. Become useful to the truth. Humility, of course, is not weakness. Humility is strength, released from the exhausting need to appear complete. And look at his beautiful belly, like a Santa Claus figure. So many connections there with the modern Santa Claus. Actually, Santa is peace in the south. Santa, Shanta. Santa Nicola, deity of all. Santa Nicola. Too coincidental. Ganesha's great belly symbolizes the capacity to contain experience without being destroyed. Praise and blame, success and failure, sweetness and bitterness, all must be digested. That's santosha, contentment. Not passivity, no, but an inner sufficiency that prevents life from being governed by endless hunger. You know the story when he ate all the dishes and the plates? And he became the one who could govern wealth then. The person without inner contentment can't really hold anything wisely. Such a person clings from fear, and they consume from a sense of emptiness. Make room for life. Digest what comes to you. And do not allow every experience to become an identity or every desire to become a command. Then his great ears. Psychologist Mahaganapati tells us to listen up before you declare. The capacity to listen deeply to wisdom, from outside and inside. Yoga Swami used to say, open the book inside of you. Study that book. And he also said, when you sit in silence, thoughts will come from that silence. Be very attentive to those thoughts. His Gajikanikaya, his Suniye, reminds us to listen before we speak, and to receive teachings before rushing to become a teacher. 200 hours? Come on, folks. How did that ever pass muster? Modern people often wish to teach before they have listened. I don't know how many people have said, oh, Swami, being yoga teacher is my dream job. But of course, when they find out it's going to take many, many years before that ever happens, they go someplace and get a simplistic certification, and then the delusions continue. And all you Indian Hindus out there that are participating in all of this with the Yoga Alliance, shame on you. You know, everything's okay if you do the right thing. Abhyaya, Ganesha's gesture. He raises one hand sometimes, and with a swastika in it. Sometimes the Om, sometimes the swastika. And we know now, like many other things, Hitler never used that, but can we use it as Hindus outside of India? No way. That's what happens when we let go of the wrong things. Huh? This hand gesture, this mudra, doesn't promise us that no difficulties will arise in life. Of course not. That's a fantasy. Ganesha's own story would contradict such a shallow promise, wouldn't it? Rather, abhyaya communicates that difficulty can be faced. Error can be corrected. Fear can be mastered. And even apparent catastrophe can become a source of transformation. So, what else do we have? What choice? Do what's right. Stand where you must stand. Accept correction where correction is needed, but don't be ruled by fear. Everything essential can still be set right. This is Shraddha, having full faith in the process. Then, psychiatrist Ganapati is teaching us, in his seated form, to have one foot upon the ground, the other raised up or folded. This could be contemplated as the balance we all need between Prakriti and Purusha. Participation in embodied life, while remaining oriented toward transcendental consciousness. One foot down, one foot up. This is a good balance. One foot must remain in the world, initially, of course. The world of responsibility. Family, work, society, your body, the earth, the Dharma. The other one reminds us that we're not reducible just to that. Tattvamasi aham brahmasmi vidmehetva sahasrasatman. Too much identification with Prakriti can produce bondage, of course. But a premature claim to Purusha can produce a sense of spiritual escapism. New Age stuff. Ganesha holds the balance. Like Mr. Miyagi. Whole life balance. Go find the balance. But remember, folks, in that classic movie, that was his second lesson. His first lesson was choose. You got to choose your path. Choose your dharma. Choose your religion. Then, and only then, can you begin to climb to the summit. And what about little Mushika? We should never overlook our vahanas in Hinduism. Isn't this cool? In Hindu mandirs, we have images of animals as well. Beneath Ganapati, the great Ganapati, appears little tiny Mushika, the mouse. The contrast could hardly be greater. Enormous and minute. Greatest to smallest, Alpha, Omega. Enormous and minute, majestic and ordinary, deity and creature. Now, the mouse can also represent the restless mind, like the deer sometimes with Mahadev Shiva. Darting desires, hidden appetites, and the tendency to gnaw constantly at whatever we encounter. OCD. Yet Ganesha does not annihilate little Mushika. He brings him into relationship and makes it his vahana, his vehicle. The lower nature is not merely condemned, it is disciplined and placed in service to the higher. Look at Mahamushika. He really is, because look what he's doing. He's doing all the yogas. He works, karma yoga. He's praying, holding laddu, so he's doing bhakti yoga. And his gaze is intently upon Mahaganapati, so he's Raja Yoga. He's doing the classic yogas for us. And Gyan Yoga, talk about enlightenment, he gets to live forever at the feet of Mahaganapati. So, and of course, Mushika reminds us that divine presence flows through all forms, from the greatest to the smallest. The same sacred life appears in the immense elephant, human being, and the apparently insignificant little mouse. And bless all those little mice. I mean, look what scientists have done to them throughout the ages. Nothing is outside the field of consciousness. Nothing's too small to be transformed into a vehicle of Dharma. Now, we come again, like the beginning, to the Pasa, and the Anukusa, and the Gada. The Pasa, the noose, signifies what to hold on to, also signifies restraint, yama, connection, and the power to draw things near. It asks, what should we hold on to, Hindus? What must we refuse to abandon? The goad represents direction and correction, the capacity to prod ourselves away from confusion, inertia, and harmful attachment. In some forms, Ganesha also carries the gata, the mace, suggesting strength, authority, and the ability to defend what is sacred. In a non-violent way, of course. Don't confuse that. You can confront. You can enter into conflicts without becoming violent. That was a great fault of Hindus, to mistakenly use ahimsa as giving up, capitulating, being abused. Nothing could be further from the truth. Together, these implements, the Gata, the Pasa, the Ankusa, they form a complete discipline. Hold on to the good things. Hold on to what nourishes. And let go of what binds. And correct what has wandered. And defend what must not be surrendered. So this comes to the modern Hindu. You think colonialism is over? Think again, my friends. This is where precisely the modern Hindu inversion becomes so revealing. Hindus often held tightly to inherited social habits, colonial categories, the English word God, imported monotheistic assumptions, caste identities, institutional prestige, and the desire for external approval. Yet, they have let go their grasp on yoga, kundalini, chakras, mantra, tantra, Sanskrit, devata, guru, the very things that carry Hindu civilization's distinctive religious spiritual knowledge. We have used the pasa, the rope, on what should have been let go, and released what the pasa should have protected. Sadly, we have often clung to the categories by which others have interpreted us, while surrendering the categories through which we once understood ourselves. J. Sai Deepak says, some of us are so colonized we don't even know how colonized we are. We hold on to God, but let go of Ishvara, Brahman, Devi, Siva, Vishnu, Atma, Krishna. We preserve the social shell, but relinquish the important religious spiritual vocabulary. We may defend caste labels more fiercely than we defend yoga, which is Hindu's identity. Yoga's identity is Hinduism. Hindu's identity is yoga. Yujatman Brahman Cha. Yoge samana parivam sapta shravato rato gat. And we may have been embarrassed, perhaps, by Kundalini and chakras until they are validated by a Western studio, a Western therapist, neuroscientist, corporation. Then we proudly claim that India gave them to the world and step in and start to become so-called 200-hour yoga teachers ourselves. Come on, folks. Stop capitulating and start educating. This is all misdirected relinquishment. True Vairagya does not mean abandoning one's inheritance indiscriminately. It means releasing ignorance, egoism, fear, greed, lobha, krodha, kama, madha, moha, abhimana, avidya, smita, raga, devesha, abhinivesa. It does not mean surrendering memory, identity, vocabulary, and responsibility. So, we could look at the Hindu problem. It's not merely attachment. It is inverted attachment, clinging to what colonized the mind while letting go of what nourished the Atmana. So Ganesha's lesson there is not to simply let go. It is know what to hold on to, know what to release, and possess the strength to do both, and know the difference. This recalls an old teaching of Yoga Swamis. Let go of the rope. But first, you have to find the rope. To hold on to the rope before you can let go of the rope. A people who no longer know what the rope is may mistake cultural amnesia for spiritual detachment. So, the full symbolism of Ganapati, Ganesha, Vigneshvara, begins not with his throne, but with his stand at the doorway. He stands for responsibility. He loses the head of limited identity. He receives enlarged consciousness. He accepts reintegration rather than permanent estrangement. Through his form, he teaches us to hold, to release, to redirect, to protect, to listen, digest, reassure, and serve. Ganesha is placed first because he teaches the psychological conditions without which nothing sacred can be sustained, maintained, and protected. Wake up, fellow Hindus. What did Swami Vivekananda say? When the name Hindu sends a galvanic shock through your entire being, then and then alone are you a Hindu. Come on, get over this, that Hindu is a foreign word. It's a different pronunciation of Hindu, of course. Hindu, Samudra Diyartivayu Bhir, Chandra Sarid Soma Bindu. This is what it means to be a Hindu. Rita Dharma, Vedic Dharma, Yoga Dharma, Sanatan Dharma. Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, Jyoti Shakti, Ananda Shanti, love, light, and energy. Om, this are we with emotions, mind, and body. And we do Karma Bhakti Raja Jnana. This is the way to Nirvana. Tamilan, Chariye Kare Yogmanyanam. This is the same as we just told you. Yama Niyama Asana Pranayama Pratyahara Dharana Dhyana Samadhi. How many times do we have to tell thee, world? All of yoga is Sanatan Dharma. This is Hinduism. Watch your Karma Kanda, Upasana Kanda, Yana Kanda, Om Vedas Me. So let's take a final class from Mahaganapati as our great psychologist, right? Stand up, Hindus, for what has been entrusted to you. Let your limited mind be transformed and remain teachable no matter what your age, without tolerating abuse, of course. Be strong, be flexible, be sensitive. Listen deeply. Digest life with contentment. Hold what is sacred. Release what binds you to ignorance. Correct what has gone astray. See divinity from the elephant to little Mushika. The child who once guarded his Mata's doorway now guards the doorway of Hindu consciousness itself. The question is, whether you Hindus will stand there with him. Will you be proud and say, I've got a dot on my head, and it's really, really red? It's a bindu, because I am a Hindu, and I am proud to be a Hindu. What about you? And I do yoga, because it is Hindu. Karma, bhakti, hatha is too. Rajajnana, it's all yoga. It's all Hindu. It's not boga or bogus or fake. Remember, it's just as relevant today as it was thousands of years ago, recorded in Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad, but long before that too. Lead me from untruth to truth, from ignorance to a more enlightened state of being. And Tattvamasi, realize you are that immortal nectar of the Atmana within, and seek a peace. But it has to be a peace of strength and a peace of justice. Otherwise, it's capitulation, submission, and weakness. Stand up like Ganapati. Asatoma sadgamaya. Tamasoma jyotir gamaya. Mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om. Shanti. 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 Jai Maha Ganapati. Stand up for the Hindu Yoga Dharma.